it's me, Emily. It is the 8th of December, and today's verse is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 17 and 18. So, what this says is, "But let him who boast, boast in the Lord. For it is not the one who commends himself who is approved, but the one whom the Lord commends." So what this is saying is that, don't talk about what you've done. Like, if you're going to be like, wow, look at these things I did, they better be things God did through you and not, like, things that you just did. Like, you know, what you should be talking about is the things that you have done that God has done through you that you were able to take part in, and not, like, how much money you have, or, like, what you went shopping this weekend, what did you buy? Like, that's not important. What's important is what God has done through you. Like, for example, like, I say like a lot. Anyway, what's important, though, is the fact that, like, I'm part of Chi Alpha. That's something that I am proud of, and that's something that God has pushed me to do, so I'm okay with speaking about it. I make these videos. That is something that God pushed me to do, and I feel very, privileged that I'm able to do this. It's things like that that I'm okay with boasting about, because it's things that God has done through me. Like, I helped one of my friends find Christ when I was in high school, and that's something that really still affects me, and that I boast of whenever I can, because it has something God let me experience. That is something I did not expect God to use me to do, and yet He did, and it felt amazing. So that's something I speak of, because that's something I want to be known as. Like, I want to be known as the girl who was in Emmaus in high school. I want to be known as the girl who went on mission trips. I want to be known as the girl who's in Chi Alpha. I want to be known as the girl who makes these Bible study videos every day. I want to be known as the person who helps her brother re-find Christ. I want to be known as the person who helped her friend Jessie find Christ. That's something that I want to be known as. That is what I want to be, because those are the things that the Lord has pushed me to do. Those are the things that God did through me. And therefore, when I speak of them, I speak of God. And when I boast about it, I boast of the Lord. And therefore, the Lord is commending me, because I am boasting of the things that He has done through me. And therefore, I have approval. Meanwhile, I don't wish to be known as, my paycheck. I don't want to be known by my paycheck. I don't want to be known by how much money I'm paying to be in college. I don't want to be known by how much money I spent on Black Friday. I don't want to be known by any of these things. I do not want to be known by my grades. I do not want to be known by any of those things, because they are not important. They are not who I am. They might be a part of me, but they are not the part that I want to be. They are not the part of me that the Lord has used. They are just things that are me. They are things that could possibly be attributed to me, but they are not the things that, like, who I am spiritually. They are not me. Like, yes, I have a job, and I make money, and I spend said money, because I have to. Like, but that's not, like, my point. I work at the cafe and the library, and I make money, and I spend it on food. Great. That's such a small facet of myself that's not something I would boast of. That's just something that happens. That's not something I boast of. Meanwhile, I will boast about the fact about Chi Alpha. I'll be like, wow, look at this thing. It's amazing, and it's changed me so much, and everything's great, and I will boast of the fact that I got baptized, because that was God working through me fully and completely, and that was amazing. And that's what God wants. He wants us to boast about the things He has done through us. Boast about the miracles we have seen in our life. Boast about the miracles we have done in our life, because God used us. He doesn't want us to talk about, like, such inconsequential things, because that's not us. Like, okay, for example, like, a big example I have that I was thinking about when I was reading this was, like, frat boys. Think of frat boys, and it's not a positive image. They party, they drink, they have sex all the time. Okay? That's what you think when you think of frat boys. But meanwhile, like, that's not all they are. But that's what they choose to talk about. Like, instead of choosing to talk about, like, the great things they do, like, they have all these great philanthropic efforts. They have all these great, like, charity events that they host and that they, like, donate all this money to, and yet they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. Like, they are not known by it. Like, for example, the Greek system at IU, like, they host the dance marathon every year, and this year they raised like $6.5 million. That's crazy. In one day, in one weekend, they raised that much money, and that's craziness. And that's so awesome. But that's not, instead of focusing on those sort of things, like, because obviously raising that money and donating it to the local hospital, that was such a God-given thing. God used them to raise that money so they could improve that hospital. And that is an amazing thing that God is like, yeah, that's cool, we did that. I did that. I worked through all of you guys and we did that. That's something that God would want you to boast about. It's like, I raised $6.5 million in one single weekend for a local hospital. That's something you should run around boasting about. Instead, you stand behind any two frat boys for like less than a minute in any food line, I'll tell you this from experience, and they'll be talking about their partying and whatever girls they slept with, and which girls are hot. And you know what? Because of that, that's the image we have for frat boys. Is sexist, party-going, alcoholic. That's what you think of when you think of frat boys. Is they sleep with girls and they party and they drink all the time. I know that not all frat guys are like that, but because they choose to boast about the girls they slept with, because they choose to boast about their partying, because they choose to boast about how much they drink, that's the image they have. That is why, like, I can tell you that any upperclassman who is, not in the Greek system will tell you first thing is that they want nothing to do with frat boys. They want to stay as far away from them as possible. Because you stand near one for like 2 seconds and you'll just hear all these remarks and all these things they've done that you don't want anything to do with. Like, I'll be standing, like, behind one in line, they'll be like, yeah, we got so drunk last night, and then I drove around campus while drunk to drop everyone off, and I'm just like, what? No. Like, I thought you were an attractive enough, kind enough human soul, and then I heard you say that, and I want nothing to do with you now. There's no chance that I'll go anywhere near you now. I want nothing to do with you. And meanwhile, I'm sure that guy was not a horrible human being. However, because of the things that he chose to talk about, and that he chose to boast about, he does not have approval. He does not have my approval, he does not have any other girl's approval, and he does not have the Lord's approval, because instead of boasting about the fact of, wow, 2 weekends ago at Dance Marathon we raised all this money, isn't that awesome? What charity event will we do next? Instead he was like, I got drunk and I slept with all these girls and everything was great. No, stop, don't do that, okay? Like, that's the sort of thing you should be looking at, is like, before you start talking about how great something was, be like, was this really something good, or was this something like, is this something that was really good? So like, okay, so like, for a prayer, for yourself, pray that, pray that you only boast, that you only talk of the things that God has done through you. That you don't sit there and talk about your job, you don't talk about how much money you make, you don't talk about all the things you bought yourself, you don't talk about, your clothing, you don't talk about any of that stuff. Instead, you talk about all the things that God has done through you, like the great things that have happened to you at church, the great things you have done to others, your charity things, your talk about how you made your kid's day with a huge smile. Talk about, how you made someone's day. Don't talk about how then you went and bought yourself, a t-shirt from Old Navy Instead, be like, but this morning I made my kid his favorite breakfast of pancakes and his entire day was made. Instead of like, and then I went to the store and I bought myself an American Eagle t-shirt. Okay? It's that sort of thing. Talk about that instead of something else, and just understand that when you talk about, like, I just made my son's day by making him pancakes for breakfast, people are going to be like, wow, that's really awesome. And God's going to be like, you just made someone's day. Meanwhile, if you talk about your favorite t-shirt, people are going to be like, ugh, vain. And God's going to be like, ugh, vain. So pray that you correctly, like, prioritize what's happened to you and what has been what glorifies God and what doesn't, and make sure that when you speak about things that have happened to you, you speak of the things that have glorified God, not the things that have glorified yourself, your earthly image, because your earthly image is not what's important, it's your godly image. So make sure that when you speak, you glorify God. And pray for others that they will be surrounded by people who glorify God when they speak, that they will be surrounded by people who hear the good word of things that God has done to people, the miracles God has done through people, the great things people have done through God. And just pray that they'll hear that, so that way they will want to come to God, because they'll hear that rather than the people talking about, their partying experiences, or people talking about the girls that they slept with. Pray that they hear instead the more holy things, the more pure things, so that way that they're surrounded by Christians who speak correctly, who speak about the great things, rather than the fake Christians who talk about, like, their party scene, and don't realize that when they speak and they speak about that, they are bringing down the image of God. Pray that they are surrounded by the right people so they can understand what being a Christian is truly like, and so that way they will be much more pushed to join, because they'll want to be part of this great community that just glorifies God and just pushes each other up, rather than pulls them down to make themselves look better. So, just pray these things, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Bye.